who we are and what we're about, and they never talk about us in good and positive terms. I'm telling you, we're coming close to the point where we are being seen as the enemy of the culture. And it's not that they have a problem with Jesus. They like Jesus, they just don't like us, and they don't like the church. And so when it comes to helping people connect by faith to Jesus Christ, for many of us, because we've been raised in this church culture and we're used to the church lingo and the things that we do and this and that, we sort of approach things on a little bit of a higher scale of understanding, right? I'm not saying that we're better than anybody else, but sometimes, we sort of sit up on our religious perch, maybe a little bit like those Pharisees, and we think we know everything and we've got all the answers. The problem is that there are a lot of lost people in the world, a lot of people who do not know Christ, and we're so used to hanging out with one another and each other that we get really uncomfortable around lost people that just are irreligious. They just don't care. They may be decent people, but we just don't know what to do with them. And if we want them to come to faith in Christ, we're assuming that they're going to start close to where we are. That they're going to get their acts cleaned up, they're going to behave certain ways, they're going to be able to talk certain ways. But here's the problem. We're sitting up at a particular place in our understanding of the faith and our view of the world and other people. But for many people, the first few rungs are missing. You ever try to climb a ladder, a really tall ladder, where the rungs are missing at the bottom? It's really hard to do. And we're expecting people to overcome some barriers and try to get up. I can't make that step, but try to get up high enough to where we are, instead of us helping them get to where we are with the gospel. I want you to understand, people don't earn their way of salvation. They don't do that. It's not about what we do to be saved. We know that salvation comes by grace and by grace alone, what Jesus did upon the cross. But there are many people who are not yet ready to even hear the gospel, because they look at us and they see us, and we oftentimes, because we behave in a particular way that says, hey, we're not good like you. We can't be there. We can't get to where you are. And they need to understand that Jesus comes to them. Jesus searches after them. Jesus reaches them where they are. And the way that we do that, how we overcome all this baggage that we have, where the world sees us as the enemy and doesn't want to have anything to do with us, the way that we overcome with that is to not worry so much about the invite until we worry about the invest. What I mean by that is, we got to start being friends with people. And listen, we're good about being friends here. We got a pretty good little friend party that goes on here. But sometimes, because we're just sort of clueless and we get so caught up in our comfort zone, we don't realize that we've created this little subculture. And there's some good things about the subculture, because it can be a safe place and a place for growth and a place for maturity and a place for disciple making. But we can isolate ourselves from other people who need to know Jesus. Listen, I used to be a Cowboys fan. Anybody Cowboy fans in here? Dallas Cowboys? All right, that's okay. Don't put his hand out. That's all right. It's good. Any other? Right, don't be afraid. If you're proud to be a Cowboy fan, let the world know about it, right? You're embarrassing yourself, I guess. I don't know. All right, well, here, listen. I used to be a Cowboy fan. And as a little boy, now this is old school Cowboys. Tom Landry was the coach, and Roger Staubach was the quarterback, and Tony Dorsett was the running back. And the enemy, back in those days when I was a kid, in the late 70s, early 80s, the enemy was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the chief enemy in those days was a guy by the name of Terry Bradshaw, the quarterback. And so he was the bad guy. He was evil, they were evil. I was a Cowboys fan until I moved to Texas. And then I got around real Cowboys fans, and I had enough, right? I have an uncle. When I was a boy, he sort of invested his life into me quite a bit. He just loved hanging around. He was my mom's brother, my Uncle Bill. And I had lots of family that loved on me, but he just sort of took a special interest in me. And he would always spend time when we would visit. He would sit down and talk to me about what's going on and how sports are going and how school is going. He just took a lot of interest in my life. And so at Christmas time, we would open up gifts, and inevitably, I would always get a gift from him. And it would include a book. And so every year, I just devour those books as he gave them to me. Well, one particular year, he gave me a book about Terry Bradshaw. And I thought, oh man, he's the enemy. This is his autobiography. Well, let me tell you, I sat down and I read that book. And it's not because I liked Terry Bradshaw, though after I read the book and discovered he was a believer in Jesus, I became a fan of him. Saw him as a role model rather than the enemy. But on my own, I would have never picked up that book and saw Terry Bradshaw with favor until my uncle who loved me, who took time and spent time with me and talked with me about my life. And I knew that he cared about me, and I knew that he loved me. And he said to me, hey, this is something worth your time. I want you to think about this.